name's Chloe Harvey, and I'm a passionate scuba diver and a marine biologist, and I'm part of the team at the Reef-World Foundation leading global greenfins efforts in a bid to make sustainable diving and snorkeling the social norm. So thank you for joining us for this super special first online dive show, and thank you to Scuba.Digital for hosting this event. This is our first online session as part of our series of our sustainability series. We've got some really interesting discussions coming up for you and to get involved in. We've got the help of some fantastic industry sustainable leaders here today. You can see some of them here already. We'll be introducing them shortly. So before we get on to that, before the COVID-19 pandemic, sustainable travel was becoming increasingly in demand. And initial research has shown that once travel gets going again with some regularity, sustainability will once again very much be on the minds of divers and snorkelers when they plan their next trip. We're all going to be thinking very carefully about the health and safety policies offered by the operators in the dive centres that we choose. And valuing sustainability and the environment will be a really good indicator for this. There's a collective move within the marine tourism industry to endeavour to make the restart of tourism much greener. And to do this, we must collaborate. We can't do this alone. And we as consumers play a huge role in this. Every time we purchase something, we vote for the ethics of the brand behind that purchase. Having said that, a recent survey conducted by one of our wonderful panelists, the online booking platform ZuBlu, shows that while 84% of you identify as eco-conscious divers, 92% of you still want to become even more eco-conscious. And 74% of you find it difficult to find operators and centres whose environmental values align with your own. So today's discussion is aimed to give you some helpful tips and tricks to help you book your next trip or purchase your next piece of kit as an ocean-conscious consumer. How to avoid that awkward moment when your dive guide might reach into their BCD pocket and pull out a bag of bread to feed the fish. Or perhaps the moment that you notice that your dive centre is dumping their chemical waste into the nearshore and polluting the beloved local dive sites. How can you make sure that your next boat is one for our oceans? And so that we can continue to enjoy incredible encounters underwater and the natural experiences that we so love for years to come. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our wonderful chair, Natalie from the United Nations Environment Programme, who we're really pleased to have with us today. Thank you very much for volunteering to do this. And we'll get the panel underway.
Great. Thanks so much, Chloe, and welcome everyone. So welcome to this event that's all around green tourism and, of course, COVID, the world that we're living in now, to explore sort of how we can make the dive industry and also our decisions as consumers, as divers around the world, greener, to shape a greener dive industry. So it's my pleasure to moderate this session. My name is Natalie. I'm the Marine Litter focal point in the Secretariat of the Coordinating Body on the Seas of East Asia, or COPSEA, which is a mouthful, I know. So COPSEA is one of the 18 regional seas programs, and our Secretariat is administered by UNEP, the United Nations Environment Programme, and we work on the protection of the marine and coastal environment in Southeast and East Asia. So Chloe's already mentioned this Green Fins initiative, which is an initiative by the Reef-World and UNEP, and it's a really great way of empowering the dive and snorkel industry to shift to more environmentally friendly practices. So why is this important, and why are we speaking about this here and now? And of course, this pandemic has showed us once again that the health of our planet is so closely linked to our health and to our way of life. And this is particularly true for the dive industry, which depends so much on healthy and beautiful coral reefs and ecosystems, but we also put so much pressure on these fragile ecosystems every time we go diving. So over the past months, the dive industry, of course, has been hit hard by the pandemic. There's hardly any tourism out there. And I think it's important to remember that this crisis has no silver lining for nature. So this is not the time to lean back. It's the time to lead by example. So it's up to all of us, the dive resorts and liveaboards, scuba gear makers, dive instructors, and all of us divers, to turn this crisis into an opportunity to use this downtime to build back better and to leapfrog to a green recovery. So to shift to greener operations, use less single-use items, move away from harmful cleaning agents and sunscreens, and to educate and engage customers and fellow divers to respect and protect the coral reefs that we love so much. So there may be a lot of challenges along the way, but this is really something that is close to our heart, and all of us can do this together. So we want to hear from you and how each one of us can help shift towards more sustainability. And we will have the opportunity to hear from the audience, so please do share your questions and also let us know which speaker you'd like to answer that question. And now let me briefly introduce our speakers so we can jump straight into it. So in this first session, we have with us Katie Thompson from PADI. And Katie has worked at PADI for the last 7 years as the Global Brand Director, and this summer became the Global Director of Corporate Social Responsibility, or CSR. And in order to focus full-time on implementing PADI's conservation mission. So Katie works in tandem with Project Aware, which most of you will know, on the long-term strategic vision for Fins On and Fins Off diver activism. And she's very passionate about creating a healthier dive and dive tourism industry for people and planet. Then we will have Jacob from Paralens. And Jacob was an active diving instructor for 10 years in various destinations such as Egypt and the Maldives, beautiful. And that really embedded his love for the ocean and the wish to protect and restore it. And today he's an active part of a global community speaking up for the ocean and for its protection. And as the partnership manager of Paralenz, he works to create ocean positive relations with the Conservation Society. And Paralens and the ocean base, which we will hear more about, is aiming to have sort of the strongest impact possible and help reverse the decline of life beneath the surface. And then, of course, we have Jason from Scuba.Digital, and Jason is a dive master who's been diving since 1996 and runs Scuba Click, the Liveaboard management system. And the idea of hosting an online dive show came about at DEMA last year. And having bought the software and forgotten all about it, COVID-19 sort of prompted the project being brought back into fruition. And here we are now at Scuba.Digital, the #1 online dive show. So let's dive straight into it, no pun intended. And I'd like to ask Katie from PADI. PADI trains millions of divers around the globe. You are trusted authority in diver education. And now PADI has shifted to a new tagline. It's Seek Adventure, Save the Ocean. So how are you making this bold mission a reality? How do you use your voice to really teach sustainability and drive positive and environmental change? Katie, over to you.
Hi, Natalie. Thank you. Yes, for many of you that know PADI, for over 54 years, our tagline has been the way the world learns to dive. And we shifted late last year to Seek Adventure, Save the Ocean, because we really wanted to deepen our commitment to conservation. It's always been part of our educational narrative. It's embedded in everything we do. But we felt like, based on the scale and depth and breadth of our operation, that we have a real responsibility to take deeper care of our oceans, and by mobilizing as many people around the world to take action. And there's a multitude of ways we're going to be doing that over the coming years, and we've obviously already started that. But it's just bringing awareness, first and foremost, that we have deepened our commitment. So right now we're really embedding that message and that tagline across our entire brand landscape. We've created a movement called the Torchbearer Initiative, which we might have some time to talk about later. But it's our new mission actually, is to sign up 1 billion torchbearers to save the ocean. And what we know, that's a lofty number, but the point of saying 1 billion is that we really want everyone to join us in this effort. And there's fins, like I think Chloe mentioned earlier, or you mentioned it actually in my bio, where we want to empower everyone to take fins on and fins off action. So we're really moving beyond just underwater efforts and focusing on what anybody can do above and below the surface to take action. And we're providing a framework to do that, and as well as we're really expanding our partnership with Project Aware and really focusing on core conservation efforts, so that we're all really working towards a common unified goal. So we're more sure to drive impact rather than having people taking different actions here and there. We're focusing more on really clear prescriptive actions that we feel will benefit people and planet.
Great, thanks so much. And yes, we will get back to the Torchbearer episode, so don't worry about that. But let me briefly turn to Jacob from Paralenz first. Jacob, Paralens has sustainability built into its core. You equip your customers, as you say, with the ability to make a positive impact for our ocean. So how do you appeal to divers to choose sustainable products, and what can other businesses learn to catalyze positive consumer demand? What's your secret?
I think the key is purpose, and that can very much be used from a corporate perspective. From our case, it's very much from the core of our hearts. From development to management, into the work that I do. And having realized that, and seeing how many brands and companies are realizing that it can be beneficial for everyone to put purpose, call to action, like tangible call to action at the top funnel, and thus creating more awareness is really, really beneficial, both short term and long term, especially in today's trends. So yeah, that will be my very brief answer to that. And of course, as you say, the way that we try to do it as a company, we feel an obligation in our position as a tool for visual storytelling. So as a camera, we kind of look at it as two verticals. So one being the ability to create through our users, to help them create more content, more video, which is the best tool of inspiration, is to be, to see the beauty of the ocean. So the more video there is, the more ocean ambassadors we will create. And on the other vertical, it's connecting the recreational dive water sports community with the science community. So that's why we incorporated temperature sensors and the conductivity sensor, as well as GPS. And we're also working heavily to read the videos that are willingly uploaded by our users to this ocean base, to be able to gain knowledge about coral condition, fish abundance, and things like these. So really, make divers and the dives, millions of dives that's being conducted every day, to make that an extended arm of conservation efforts and restoration management.
Fantastic, and we will get to the ocean base again in a bit more detail later on. Thanks so much. Let us turn to Jason from Scuba.Digital. So this digital dive show, this format, is a new experience for all of us. Do you see potential for dive shows to become more digital and to reduce the environmental impact associated with dive shows and to flying around the globe? And do you think this is really something that divers in the dive industry could be interested in? And how do we get that idea out there?
Yes, it can. It can definitely help reduce the impact. Is the first answer. We've seen over the last 6 or 7 months of COVID, lots of pre-existing dive shows that were a physical dive show, wanting to try and do something in place of that because they can't do it. And they've tried to put on a dive show of some kind. And some have done it through a bit of webinar work. Here's a whole load of videos or whatever. We think that we're the first doing it in this particular format, where people are actually live in the event and live on the format. And whilst we're the first, we won't be the last, I'm pretty sure of that. But it does bring a new dimension to dive shows that hasn't been around. It will probably be slow to take off, but actually COVID is preventing not the people going to a dive show, it is preventing people from going because it's not happening, but it's preventing the organizers attracting the exhibitors. The exhibitors themselves at the moment can't go to a dive show. And because of that, they are in a position to say, okay, what can we do? And they're looking to live events like this one to replicate, or at least to not replicate everything, because as a manufacturer, as Jacob is, if you've got a product, the one thing you can't do in this environment is touch it. Okay, you can't smell it if it's food that you're looking for. You can't touch it, but you can see things. You can learn about things without having to travel. And I think dive shows of the future will be like this, because more and more exhibitors will choose, rather than going to 50 different dive shows in the world, flying there, accommodation, staff, transportation, all of those factors are a cost. And the one fundamental thing that will drive change is saving money. And saving money in an environment like COVID is really important right now. So it is an opportunity, which links right back to what Chloe and yourself, Natalie, have said, that this is the opportunity to change. How far we can drive that change, we're yet to find out.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Because you mentioned Chloe, let's hear from Chloe, and let's see if there are some questions trickling in from the audience that we might want to bring in at this point. Chloe?
There are indeed, yeah. So we've had some questions from our networks. So I wanted to ask, because we have a manufacturer in the room, and I know that diving equipment is something that can be done in a very good way and also in a very bad way as well. So I just wanted to know, one of the questions that I've selected, divers love gear, but how do I know whether an item is sustainable? What type of questions should I ask?
It depends on what type of equipment it is, because if you look at if we take normal diving equipment as a whole, I think it's really important to, as with any equipment, is to look at what kind of packaging are they using. That's very practical. Where and how is it manufactured? What is the company's brand mission? What do they want to make an impact? And also, what is their stance on the negative impact that they surely have in manufacturing? I think it's very important to not be discouraged to make and communicate impact because you have a negative impact somewhere along the value chain. It's extremely important. You need to be transparent about this, with a wish to want to find better solutions. But as a consumer, get to know the brand. See how are their processes in manufacturing, how are they shipping, how are they packaging, and do they have an inherent purpose in their products that can help for greater good. I could name a few. I would love to name aside from Paralens, I'd love to give a shout out to Fourth Element for their incredible branding. And mission, and I know the founders personally, and it's not a shallow CSR profile. This is very much embedded into the management, and they make incredible products while doing that. So that's a good example of that.
I absolutely second that as well. With Fourth Element, the trailblazers of the sustainable wetsuit world and beyond as well. Check out their cleaning products as well, their recent cleaning products. It's really groundbreaking stuff. That's great. Thanks, Jacob. Natalie, would you like another question, or do you want to go into the next round?
You know what? Let's have another question if you have another one for us. They sound great.
Sure. So actually, I think this is about training courses, so it naturally probably goes to PADI, but I think maybe everyone could chip in, because you might have some good words with this. But what are the best environmental courses I can take to learn more about ways to protect the reef through my diving?
Chloe, you want me to take that first?
Yeah, I think, and then if anyone else has anything they want to chip in with. Okay.
We have a plethora of offerings, definitely through our partnership with Project Aware Foundation. For those listening, Project Aware is separate from PADI, even though people always confuse us as the same thing. But what's really cool about our partnership with Project Aware is that they have staffers on board that actually write the curriculum and the courses that we have, the Aware courses. And they have really expert people that are working on conservation policy and make sure that those courses really are benefiting people and planet. So there's courses that you can take fins on and fins off. So we have the Project Aware Specialty, which is just, you can take that in tandem with your open water diver course, which is a really good opportunity, or you can just take it on its own. And that really gives you a foray, an introduction into how you can take action for the ocean, some of the things that you can do above the surface and below the surface, and really gives you some good ways to take care of, like when you're diving, to dive safely and properly and to take care of our reefs and things like that. Then you can get more specialized. We have aware shark conservation, we have a coral conservation course. So we have different courses that we offer that really that enable you in conjunction with your regular core diver courses to take those conservation opportunities as well. And there'll be more coming over the coming years as well as we expand the program.
Fantastic.
Oh, and then I just wanted to mention our flagship program is our Dive Against Debris program. And that's probably the most popular conservation course we have. And that is, and the most powerful one, I would say, as far as when you collect your diving, when you're on your dive and you collect and then upload your data to the Dive Against Debris app, that information is collected and really used to help inform marine policy. So I would say if any course that you're going to take with PADI, I would definitely recommend, if you're a certified diver, that is really the most important one right now, because it is helping to drive change at the local level as far as marine debris is concerned. So sorry, I wanted to add that in.
No worries, that actually speaks very much to my heart. So I'm happy to hear that. To add something, otherwise I might jump into another round of questions that I have for you. Sound good? All right, let's carry on. And please do keep sending us your questions from the audience, because we'll have another opportunity to ask the speakers. Right, so I'd like to turn back to Jacob, actually. Can you tell us a bit more about the ocean base and how this footage that is collected with Paralens cameras can really contribute to marine conservation? You already alluded to this a little bit, but what kind of message do you have also for underwater photographers in general, so that they don't, break reefs while they're trying to take great pictures, but rather help to protect them? How can they be part of this mission?
Yeah. So first of all, to address, the measures that you should take as a diver, as a photographer, we are in collaboration with Reef-World, who's been very supportive of this. We really want to. We have the obligation as a camera manufacturer to convey the message of diving with awareness when you're using a camera. We've all seen the divers with cameras lying over the reefs and not really paying attention to anything else than what's going on in the viewfinder. And we can only really urge our customers and divers in general to, when they are diving with a camera, that they really take care of the surroundings. So surrounding first, pictures second. And with regards to the ocean base, it's quite interesting, because aside from being a camera manufacturer, we know that a camera is something that a lot of people, they want to bring on their dives, to share their holidays. And when developing this camera, we realized that by adding temperature, conductivity standards, GPS, and a depth sensor, of course, we were able to kind of have this data collection for marine research and restoration efforts piggyback on people sharing their holiday moments, and then taking that data that's not really relevant if it's not put to use, and all data is not also relevant. So to add more value to this work that we're doing, we have highly focused on working with science partners, so conservation organizations, universities, and governmental organizations such as NOAA, to really teach us and tell us what is important for the science and restoration and conservation community of data, and then do our utmost to streamline the whole journey of that data. So when you come up from a dive with a Paralens camera, you connect it to the app, then you have actually already in a non-personalized way with respect to privacy and such, you already provided us with temperature, depth, and with the new camera coming out, location and conductivity. And then if you then take the step further to share your video on a platform inside the app, which is called the Ocean Base, which is essentially a world map. If you upload your dive videos, you can select which parts of the video collected that you want to share. If you upload that to the world map, it will be pinned in for other divers to see and be inspired to travel to these different destinations. But you are also giving us the opportunity to use this video. And what we can use it for at the moment, we are really focused on developing an AI or machine learning that can read videos and pull out the information, as I brushed upon before, about the conditions of the corals in the footage, and then correlate that with the depth, temperature, and location. So as it is now, the video that's being collected will serve as a basis for teaching that algorithm what is a fish, what is a coral, and that is also in collaboration with a lot of other science partners. So this will really build, and as I say, the data that's being collected now is the foundation for that application and for that outcome for the future. We are still a startup, but we're highly ambitious around this topic, and we are putting a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, it seems like it. That sounds really great. Thanks for sharing that, Jacob. Let me turn to Jason again briefly and ask, what more can and should dive shows do to promote sustainability in their messaging and the way that they're organized? And maybe what would you maybe do differently next time, or once things sort of go back to normal, what would you take on board?
Well, first of all, I don't think there is going to be a normal as we used to know it. I think, as a book I'm reading currently says, the world has moved on. It has changed already. People have to look at things differently, and I was thinking about for a long time about dive shows. What can we do different? Before COVID came along, and the idea of putting an online show on like this was always there, and COVID has pushed that and made us do it. It's made us turn around and go, okay, look, there's no excuses anymore. Let's just do it. For people who are operating other dive shows around the world, it's going to be a much harder decision. We didn't do dive shows up until this one. It wasn't our primary business, but we decided to help out the industry and hopefully do something. Other people whose sole business is a dive show, and they put our show on, they get exhibitors in who they charge, they get punters in who they charge, there's a venue, they have costs, all that environment.
I think we seem to have lost Jason, so...
Yeah.
Is everyone else still there?
Yes.
All right, well, apologies for that. We'll give Jason the opportunity to finish his thought and his sentence. We'll see if he pops back in. But maybe while we wait for that, Katie, let me ask you to please...
Yes, I'll probably give a completely different answer this time.
Sure, this is the second chance.
No, I just meant I hope I can remember everything I said. So for those of you who are wondering, just in case you missed it earlier, what a torchbearer is. Obviously, there's a torchbearer in our logo, and that's really where this comes from, is the idea of the diver holding the torch. And we see that torchbearer as a leader in conservation and a leader in protecting the ocean, different things like that. So that's really where that comes from, in case I thought that was a good reminder of what is the torchbearer and why we came up with that. And we as a brand are trying to activate people around the world. Our goal is 1 billion people to take action for the ocean and become ocean advocates. And so obviously all of those billions of that 1 billion people will not always be scuba divers. We certainly would love them to be scuba divers as long as they are doing so with respect for the underwater world. That's a lot of people to bring into the ocean. But we definitely want to provide a clear pathway for divers and non-divers to take action for the ocean. So we call that fins on and fins off actions. And so we definitely want to start with our own audience. I mentioned earlier about the best advocate for the ocean as a diver and the best advocate for the sport of diving as a diver, and them sharing that passion for the sport with others. So we definitely are working on embedding this message, the Seek Adventure Save the Ocean, the ability for people to sign up as a torchbearer and to take action, and being clear about what those actions are. And we have a lot more coming, but working with our partner Project Aware on some really cool ways for us to engage in citizen science and to report, make every dive with a purpose every time. And we've created a framework for that called the Torchbearer 5 that's really going to help inform and provide structure to what these actions are. Mm-hmm. And then the way that I mentioned earlier, the other way we want to reach beyond, to build torchbearers, is to reach beyond the dive industry. And really that's a critical component of being able to really grow this movement, is to bring everyone that we can into it. And so we want to formulate really strategic partnerships that will allow us to do that. So we want to be able to speak to, the sailors, the surfers, anyone that's a water enthusiast, the people that are snorkeling, families, like all those people are, we don't discount the value of them if they're not diving. We absolutely need all those people on board with all of us to really hear this message and to take, a billion people are taking the same small action, it will add up to a much broader change. So we see that both of these components, looking inside, looking inward, and reaching out as far as we can to bring more people in to join our movement is really critical to saving the ocean.
Great, sounds really good. Now I'll try again. Chloe, do we have a question from the audience?
We do. I've got one actually for Jason, unfortunately, but not here. So we'll have to save that one for another time. But I have got one. This one is definitely for you, Katie, and it's something actually we were talking about just the other day, very similar to this. So someone said, I've been working in the diving industry for over 25 years. And when I first started, there was a real focus on respect for the ocean. It was intuitive. Why has this been lost among PADI instructors in more recent years?
This is definitely a tricky question to answer, because I do feel there is a level of maybe a subjectivity here, only because if you really dove into our training materials, the narrative of protecting the ocean has been embedded since the very beginning, and it continues to evolve. We just recently updated all of our training materials with use reef safe sunscreen. We're very supportive of our friend Autumn at Stream to Sea and everything she's doing there. We teach all of our instructors and their instructor training courses to teach the PADI aware specialty, to really embody and embrace everything that has to do with ocean conservation, and to passionately teach that to their students. I'm not exactly sure where it's getting lost. I think, we've taken note of this. We had this conversation the other day, and it's interesting. I wonder where people are seeing the disconnect, because we definitely are. We do teach that to our instructors when they become an instructor. We embed it in all of our courses. If you're going to flip through the Open Water Diver Manual, there's tons of sidebars on that the instructor's teaching about the importance of ocean conservation and diving respectfully. I think it does come down to the instructor too, and the passion of the instructor, and what they also are they have to personally make it their own mission to embody these messages and these techniques. It is part of our standards. We recently changed we used to, if those of you that have been certified over the past few decades, it used to be on your knees. That's how you learn how to dive with regulator, recovery, and different techniques. We changed that to be fin tips only on the ground, so that we were reducing our footprint on the ocean floor or wherever we're diving. So there's definitely, through our training materials, through our communications, there's always, these messages are definitely embedded in the techniques and the standards that we teach our instructors. So I think we could say we could definitely always do a better job. We can always make sure that we are reminding our instructors that they have a responsibility as much as all of us, as divers, as just human beings, that, when they take on the role of being an instructor, they take on a role of this protector of the ocean realm, and further making sure that they're instilling this ocean advocacy with their student divers.
Great, thanks so much, Peisee. I think we have time for one more quick question and quick answer before we wrap up.
Yes, a quick one. So, Jacob, this one's for you. You talked about the ocean base contributing to marine conservation organisations and science partners. It's just fantastic. I love that aspect of what you're doing. How big an impact can citizen science actually have?
Good question.
The short answer is massive. So one thing is, as I mentioned earlier, inspiring other people to become ocean ambassadors. That is essentially a huge impact. And divers as citizen scientists. So I'd like to take the top-down approach on that, because the bottom up is like divers being aware when they're going, diving and on holidays. But the top-down approach for this would be, when looking at the UN declaring the decade of ocean science for sustainable development, and we're looking at the recognized 30-30 strategy, where we need to protect 30% of our oceans, the correct 30% of our oceans by 2030. We also envision that that divers as citizen scientists, not only with the Paralens cameras, we're just trying to streamline that journey, but divers as data miners, data collectors, basically observers. They will be able to document where are marine protected areas needed in coastal ecosystems. So where is the damage the worst? Where are bleaching events happening? Where are crown of thorns epidemics happening? Where do we need to create resilience by creating these marine protected areas? So that's one thing, documenting the need for marine protected areas. And then once those areas are created, we need to document the effects of these marine protected areas and see how the ecosystems are bouncing back, as it's seen in many, many places, and kind of using that as a confirmation that we need to create more marine protected areas, because it affects everything. It's not only divers that get more pretty reefs to look at. It's also fish stocks bouncing back, and whale, numbers of whales and animals, mammals and fish that bounces back, and it affects entire coastal communities. So the science community, the restoration community, the conservation community, they really need data, and not just going out surveying an area, coming back with that data, and then trying to correlate that to last time they were out in that place, maybe 5 years ago or something like that. We need to build up that foundation of knowledge and have it as real time as possible and as widespread as possible. So through that, citizen science in data mining, as I would call it, helping collect data, has huge importance. So
fantastic.
Creating awareness, collecting data.
Great, thanks so much. And I think I see we've got Jason back as well. Come back. It's already time to wrap up this first session, even though we could go on forever. So maybe just to summarize a little bit, we've heard a lot about what we can do. All of us can, make very conscious choices, look at the products that we're buying, look at the mission statement behind that. All of us can contribute. You can, become a torchbearer. You can take, extra courses and learn more about conservation. All of this stuff is out there. Choose, digital options. Engage in platforms like Scuba.Digital and really make conscious decisions. And also, I think it's very empowering what we've heard. All of us can be citizen scientists. All of us can contribute to the knowledge that we have of our ocean and also contribute to protecting it so that we can keep diving and exploring for decades to come. And also another thing that I've heard time and time again, collaboration, partnerships. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell other divers, working with science, working with UN, working with other partners. So really, joining together on this journey. And as we heard from Jason before as well, we're not going back to how it was before. So this is really an opportunity to change the way that we're doing things and move ahead in a sort of greener way of diving. And I think we are already at time. Chloe, what do you think? Do we need to take a break here? Thanks so much. Sorry for the little glitch in between. That's we've lost a little bit of time at the end there. But thanks to all of you. That was really fantastic. Please do stick around. And after a short break, we will return with some more speakers and we'll get those questions from the audience rolling in. All right, welcome back everyone, and welcome to those of you who have only joined us now. We are speaking about sustainable diving, and also in times of COVID and post-COVID, what can all of us do, what do we ask, and what do we look for? So this new round of speakers includes Rachel, Adam, and Peisee. Welcome, all three of you.
Hi.
Rachel works for Explorer Ventures, and she manages Explorer Ventures' digital presence, and she spearheads sustainable operations. And she's part of the EV family already for over 13 years. She started as a dive instructor on the Caribbean Liveaboards and eventually switched over to the land-based team. And Rachel is your go-to woman for anything fleet-related, from favorite dive sites and sustainability to social media. Then we also have with us Peisee from Bubbles Dive Center. Peisee is a PADI master diver, reef check instructor, and co-founder of Bubbles Turtle and Reef Conservation Project. She's also a co-owner of the Bubbles Dive Resort, founded in 2004, and has significantly improved the center's environmental impact score since joining Greenfins 5 years ago. And Peisee is the joint winner of the 2020 Greenfins Award for the top dive center this year, tied with Tioman Dive Center and Flora Bay divers. So well done, Peisee, and we'll hear more about that. And Adam from ZuBlu is the co-founder of ZuBlu. That's a travel platform helping scuba divers and marine enthusiasts discover and book their next underwater adventure in Asia and beyond. And what's unique is that there is an experiential search tool with over 500 eco-friendly resorts and liveaboards to choose from, and a commitment to conserving the marine environment. ZuBlu helps you explore the blue and dive green. All right, let's jump straight into it. And I would like to ask you, Rachel, how does Explorer Ventures consider the environment in your operational procedures? How does or will COVID hygiene and safety measures maybe impact the progress that you've already made to green your operations? Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
That's a really good question. There's no rule book for a pandemic and how dive operators, whether you're liveaboard or land-based, are to respond. Health and safety of guests and divers is the first priority. But with that in mind, environmental consciousness remains at the heart of what we do. So luckily for us, we were already well established with green fins, as well as our own sustainability strategy called Dive Green on our Caribbean vessels. So when COVID happened, and is still happening, it wasn't, I want to say it wasn't as hard as we expected to do. We had to do, a little bit of creative thinking. We had to do extra communication and extra research, but we were able to really just charge ahead, because it was already established within our policies and our procedures on board. Some of the, new elements were added, for instance, gloves and masks, dealing with more plastics, or, things like sanitizer and different kinds of products like that. But some of the things that have happened in the policies for COVID have actually helped with sustainability. And one example of that is, Liveaboards are essentially all-inclusive floating hotels. You have your meals, you have your room, you have diving all in one place. And so every day, rooms are being cleaned, just like they would in a hotel. One of the policies that was switched or, adapted for COVID was, the social distancing, keeping more space, as in keeping the cleaners out of the room and providing people more space. So we were able to, continue to offer that as an option for cleaning rooms. And most divers, as we found, we've only been, back at sea within the Caribbean for a couple weeks now. And we found that most divers actually don't want their rooms cleaned anymore. They want to have that space, which actually, that's less water usage, that's less, linen washing, that's less, cleaning products being used. So some of the policies have actually helped with sustainability, and other ones, we're learning as we go. And that's the best that any operator can do in this period of time.
Exciting stuff. I see that we have Peisee back as well. Peisee, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I'm still hearing two.
Okay, fantastic. Maybe if you like, sort out your audio issues and I'll just continue with Adam to give you a little bit of time.
Sorry.
No worries at all. Adam, when we spoke last time at ADEX, which seems like a million years ago, we talked about, a new consumer demand for sustainable services. And in the first session, Chloe mentioned that there was a survey done that more and more people really are interested in choosing, sustainable and green options. So how is ZuBlu helping guests to find those eco-friendly options, and what are they looking for?
Yes, gosh, yeah, a lifetime ago indeed. But going back to those kind of results from the community that we got, that Chloe mentioned earlier, we've been in close contact with all of our guests and our community throughout this period, and did a survey to understand some of their wishes for the future, and got some really encouraging results. So for anyone joining the second part of the panel, some of the really exciting stuff that came out of that was that 84% of scuba divers want to book eco-friendly options when they travel. But the challenge we had there was that 75% of them struggled to know what to look for when making those travel decisions. So for us, that highlights a few things. Firstly, there's a huge energy, unsurprisingly, for scuba divers to travel more consciously. However, they really need help in their decision making. So going back to that panel and that event in Singapore at ADEX back in 2018, aside from the panel, I was very fortunate to join a workshop that the Reef-World Foundation run with Chloe. And that was a closed room session for operators to discuss the challenges when it comes to sustainability. And one of the points that came out of that was the unsurety, if that's a word, of talking about or showcasing all the little green steps each operator was making. However, the results from the survey, I think, really show that people are keen for information. And people should be highlighting that in everything that they're doing, whether it's big or small. So it helps people make better decisions, right from the beginning. So at ZuBlu, we try and play a big part in that as well. So we very carefully select who we partner with. We've now got over 500 operators, resorts, liveaboards across Asia and beyond that we're really proud to work with. We collaborate with Greenfins, who have an amazing membership of operators that are getting annually assessed, and they're working passionately towards being more sustainable. So looking out for the Greenfins badge is one of the first things any diver can do when making their travel decisions. We highlight on that on our platform. But yeah, looking out for the Greenfins badge is a very good thing to do. And I'll leave it there in the instance of time, but I can share a few other bits that we do as well in later questions.
No worries. Thanks so much for that, Adam. I think we're generally having a couple of technical issues here and there and some glitches, and I think Peisee is still sort of jumping in and out of our conversation. So we'll keep moving for now until we've got her back. Chloe, do we want to jump to a quick question from the audience to give Peisee a bit of time to come back in?
Yeah, sure. And I hope I'm not hijacking one of your next questions in doing this, so apologies. But there's a question that's come in that's really interesting, and I think, Rachel, you'll be able to give some information about this, but I think, Adam, you might also be able to spin in as well. So the question is, there's so much new information coming out about protecting ourselves against COVID. Is it possible to prioritize the environment while following new guidance?
That's another great question. Anything around COVID is takes definitely some thought. It is, I would really encourage people to become their own environmental detective. Looking at and educating themselves on, what it means to be sustainable and what to look out for with these operators, as well as using programs like ZuBlu. It can really help keep that top of mind. It won't be with everybody adapting to these COVID policies, there's no perfection out there. There's no, one way of doing things to meet both COVID policies and meet, sustainability. So I really would encourage people to dig a little bit deeper and do their research, because there are operators out there that are meeting both of those goals in just different ways and in creative ways. So I really do think it is possible. It just takes a little bit extra effort.
Adam, do you have Adam, do you have
Great. Yeah, I wanted to give Adam the opportunity to respond as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's an enormous challenge for all operators at the moment. And I think there's a lot of big efforts going on. For example, I know Greenfins have just recently launched in Egypt, and Egypt has also put in a whole load of guidelines for their operators about how to handle COVID and to kind of operate more responsibly, I guess. So when you combine those things together, generally things are being done the right way. But when there is, I think, as Rachel said, there's a little bit of learning as we go. When it comes to, cleaning equipment, you need to find a product that it destroys the potential of COVID, but also needs to be protecting the reef at the same time. And there's those balances there. So there's a lot having to go on and learn as we go. But I think going back to a point Jacob made on the initial part of the panel, I think the businesses that have this management culture right from the beginning, he mentioned Fourth Element, you can see it with Rachel, hopefully Peisee joins us as well, but those businesses that have it coming right from the top and it's led as a core part of their business, they'll find a way to navigate through it and to make sure that sustainability is still considered rather than cutting corners. So it is a challenge, but there are, as Rachel said, if you dig a bit deeper, there are businesses and operators that are finding a way to navigate it.
And if you don't see it, just jump in there as well. If you don't see it forthright on their website or in their materials, it doesn't mean that it's not the core of what they do. So it's always worth a question. It's always worth, searching out that place and communicating and seeing what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's actually a really good point. And this is something where I wanted to ask Peisee how she's doing that or how we can improve that. But unfortunately, she's still struggling to come back in. So we'll remember that. And I'd actually like to ask you, Rachel, could you share some of the, what are sort of the challenges or maybe the successes that you encounter in implementing Greenfin's operations on liveaboards? You know, are there some areas where you say, oof, this is really hard to communicate to customers, or, you know, what are some stories that you'd like to share with us?
I think the challenges and successes for us have gone hand in hand. When we first started with Greenfins and on the sustainability journey, it was 15 years ago with our own Dive Green strategy, and unfortunately it was a little bit before the time. So one of the successes I would say is that was a challenge that was faced, but then when Greenfins was able to come in the last couple of years, it ended up helping us move forward with our sustainability. And one of the reasons why it was probably a little bit challenging was because liveaboards operate across borders, in open oceans, in remote destinations. You know, some of the most remote places in the world is where liveaboards go. So it ends up having policies that meet all of the, the marine protected areas, as well as the governments, as well as, on-board policies. And, it ends up being quite challenging to meet those goals. But that's also allows us, through Greenfins and through our own strategy to rise and improve our standards and improve on what we're working on. So one of the, without going too long here, we ended up having to create, our own strategy, which Greenfins, spearheads within there is the Dive Green strategy, because we needed to create policies that worked for our liveaboards in the Caribbean. And so that was a challenge, but it was also a very big success. And as we're moving forward, we're evolving those, and we're coming across other challenges. One of the things that might not be aware is getting provisions or certain cleaning agents or certain products that we want that are green or better for the environment are very hard to get in certain locations on islands, to our liveaboards. So, the wait time on that is sometimes up to 2 months, especially during COVID. It's been much longer than that. So we don't always get first choice of what we want to have on board. So ordering and provisioning becomes very hard for some destinations. So that is a challenge we first encountered in the beginning. Of course, it continues. But now that we've, been working at this for a couple of years, it's a lot easier to get these things. We think ahead, we're able to order ahead, so we can get the first choice of products and first choice of materials that we'd like to have on board. So I guess that's the best way to explain our current challenges, especially in light of COVID right now. It's been much harder with lockdown.
Yeah, I'm sure it has been. And I'm glad that you mentioned this issue of supply and supply chains, because this has been one of the challenges that we've been, speaking to partners and divers and dive centers about for quite a while. So one of the things that I remember, and Chloe, jump in, was that sort of sharing information on where to get these kind of products, and sharing experience. How are you making sure that supply chain really works for you so that you can get those products there on time? That's something that is really valuable, and I think this is where some platforms that we already have could be quite useful. And of course, Greenfins also shares some guidance on, are you looking for reef safe sunscreen, something like that? Here are a couple of producers that we know in your region. So I think that sharing of knowledge could be quite helpful throughout the industry while we are sort of learning how to do things differently. I'd like to ask Adam, because we were speaking a bit about that sort of visibility and that there is demand for eco-friendly services. But what do you think, coming out of lockdown and out of COVID post-pandemic, what should divers really be thinking about when they're planning their first trip? And how can the dive industry really, promote kind of eco-friendly and low-impact dives? What is it that we need to see apart from the Greenfins logo, of course? How can we really make sure that people find those kind of products?
Yeah, well, I mean, for us, I think we always stand by the mantra that sustainable travel starts at home. And at ZuBlu, we try and play an active role in that. So not trying to plug ourselves too much, but if you want to look at a great selection of operators, and that's a good place to start. And then we're here. We're very proud of all those partners, and we're here to provide you with a personalized kind of travel service and answer any questions you have, be it sustainability related or experience related, or COVID related as well. So we're here to help with that. I think just to add about the other part about planning from home, there's a lot of other decisions you can make around what equipment you bring. We've talked with Jacob from Paralens, and the cameras they have are fantastic and help with citizen science. Fourth Element as well. They've just launched their new wetsuit Surface, which is a plant-based neoprene, which is really cool. So there's a lot of decisions to be made at home to start with. The one thing we're seeing a lot more of now is a real energy from people to get involved in impactful experiences when they travel. We kind of are broadly calling them eco-ventures, but I guess another term we've been using throughout the panels has been citizen science. And we're seeing more and more operators include additional experiences alongside the traditional dive trips that people can get involved in. And I think promoting those is a really big thing moving forwards. I think Niv Froman from Manta Trust is in the audience. The Manta Trust works with Manta expeditions where travelers can go on trips led by marine biologists and learn more and play an active role in research on those trips. I think Joe Goodfellow from the Olive Ridley Project in Lami, Maldives is with us. Simon Jones from Murex Resorts in Sulawesi, Indonesia. They offer a number of opportunities for guests to get involved in sustainability and conservation efforts. So aside from promoting what you're doing operationally, it's really exciting to see an increase in kind of impact experiences, or eco-ventures as we call them, that are going on. So we're actively curating and trying to work with our partners now to pull together all of those initiatives and programs that people can get involved in. And we'd love to see more of those happening. And if anyone wants help in promoting those, please do reach out as well, because from our community, I think the one stat I didn't mention, 92% of scuba divers want to become more eco-conscious and sustainable divers. And part of that is about getting involved in impactful experiences. So I think that's a big thing for resorts and liveaboards and operators to embrace moving forwards as well.
Really glad that you mentioned that, because I think that's an important message to put out there as well. If people really experience, how they can be part of that positive impact, that's something tangible and something that they take home and share with their fellow divers and with their friends and family as well. So thanks a lot for that. Chloe, do we have some questions from the audience that we might want to pose to Rachel and Adam while we wait, hopefully getting Peisee back soon?
Oh.
Sorry, my microphone was on mute. I do have some questions. Hopefully we'll get Peisee back soon. But just before, I just wanted to hijack the platform for just a second, because you were talking about suppliers, and it's something that Adam and I have been dreaming about for a long time, is to put together a list of eco-conscious suppliers. And it's just a lack of capacity on our side to be able to do that in a way that really is useful for the user. So we're collecting together a list, but we have some exciting news with a new digital product that we're going to be developing through the next year. And that will provide us with better ability to be able to collect this sort of information and hopefully maybe forecast that information back out to the community. But if anyone has any other ideas, and also if anyone knows of any ocean conscious suppliers, whether they're suppliers that provide in bulk or in non-plastic packaging, or if the product itself is eco-conscious, eco-conscious or ocean conscious, then please do let us know, because we're trying to build a picture of local suppliers so that you're not having to ship stuff around the world, because at the moment these products are not widely available. So yeah, if we can build a network of those, that would be great. So thanks for talking about that as well, because I did want to mention it.
Can I just clarify, was Greenfins not awarded for that initiative that you're now embarking on? Is that
the digital platform?
Yeah.
Yes, we were. Yes.
Yeah,
so there's more information about that coming soon, and it will be something that will be exciting for the global diving audience. So watch this space.
Mostly.
So there's a question that's quite exciting, and I think as a diver, well, if I notice someone behaving irresponsibly on a dive trip, what should I do? I think that's a nice question. Whoever would like to take it.
So my introduction here is also I started with Explore Ventures about 13 years ago on the Liveaboard. So I spent the first part of my career with this company actually doing that sort of thing before Greenfins was on board. It's a very interesting dynamic because we're a service-oriented industry as divers, as dive instructors, or just even with your buddy. It puts you in a challenging space to figure out exactly how to respond to what you're seeing. The right thing is always to say something or encourage them to correct their behavior, but not in a confrontational way. For instance, if you're seeing, as Jacob had said in the earlier session, if you're seeing a photographer that's laying on the reef, I would say it's always good to have a conversation with them. Or, for instance, on our boats, when the divers come on board, we actually do a very thorough briefing. So if you're leading a guide or you're just going with your buddy, there's tools available within the dive briefings of the company that you're going with, or even Greenfins offers a very good education program for divers that you can do online that I believe is free, where you can actually pass that education around. We're all spokespeople and we're all ambassadors for the ocean. So I would encourage people to say something and get more involved and spread that knowledge as much as you can before a dive, before something comes to a situation where the environment is being harmed or impacted.
Thanks, Rachel. That's actually a really important message. I think it's a good takeaway. Do we have another question from the audience, Chloe?
I want to hear Adam's response to that question as well, because I think he might have some golden nuggets too, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's always challenging having a conversation with anyone when they might disagree with you, and handling those situations happens in normal life, let alone underwater. I mean, I think it's our responsibility to speak up. I think if you know the person or been doing a couple of dives with them, then hopefully it's very easy to have that conversation pretty quickly. If you don't feel you have that kind of position to have a chat with them, I mean, speak to the dive guide, speak to the leader on the boat, the trip, the direct cruise director or the resort manager, and get them involved. You can always sort of
Peisee,
go a little bit.
It seems we have you back, but I think we've lost
Peisee,
Adam.
Yeah. Oh, no. I can hear everyone.
Yeah, I can see Adam.
I can see Adam.
Yeah,
okay.
We can see and hear Adam. I think maybe Natalie may have lost her sound.
No.
I can't hear Adam anymore. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was saying that they're one of the easiest ways to do it is to ask them to make sure in the next dive briefing it is raised as a key point.
Right, I cannot hear Adam, so in case you are speaking, I'm very, very sorry. There seems to be a connection issue on your side, and apologies to everyone. There seem to be a lot of technical glitches going on now. This is just sort of the world that we're facing at the moment. But while we've got Peisee, very, very quickly, Peisee, I really wanted to ask you, I mean, your dive center, you've made such good progress over the past years. And you've really taken feedback from Greenfins on board. Can you tell us a little bit how have the customers and the staff reacted to some of the changes that you've made to become greener, and why are you not really making those changes visible? Because people do want to choose a dive center that and a dive resort that is green.
Okay, sorry, there is a echo, so I have to really focus on what you're saying. Okay. Well, first of all, is the staff. To teach them about conservation was a little hard. They are the village folks, they live their village life and things like that. So it is really hard work. But it was a great effort because since we joined Greenfin, they see that, they are doing something different and people really appreciate what they are doing, especially their cigarette butts. They would just toss it at sea when waiting and things like that. And then I told them, okay, no, you don't toss it in the sea anymore. You should carry an ashtray with you. And every time when you are going out in the sea, bring back your trash, secure your plastic wrappers and everything. So they start to see that it's really important to do this, because on the first year when we were top 10, they realized that, okay, we are being appreciated. What we are doing is actually important. So that's really.
Right, Peisee. Thanks so much for that. I hope that you're still there. We're really having quite a lot of audio issues here. But yeah. I just have to say, you're really leading by example, but you don't really promote your environmental practices on your website. You got rid of single-use straws, and you're trying to now switch to cleaner and non-toxic cleaning products and so forth, and you really engaged your staff and your customers. So we were talking a little bit about visibility, making sure that people can really choose an eco-friendly dive experience. So why do dive centers maybe not talk about this, or how can we improve this visibility?
Sorry. Okay. Well, the visibility, I can't really hear. There was a double echo on everything. Chloe, can you type the question? I can't really hear very well.
So sorry about that, Peisee.
Oh, okay. We do have a talk nightly to all our guests when they are. Sorry, I'm hearing the green.
Just keep going, Peisee. We can continue.
While we're trying to get Peisee back again, we have a comment from the audience that I'd like to respond to. So someone's asked or said would love to hear more about cleaning, sanitizing products for scuba gear. And if you have a look at the Greenfin's website, we have some guidance on how to follow the COVID regulations and use some of the products that are being recommended, but then also dispose of those chemicals in more responsible ways. So please go to the Greenfin's website and go to downloads, and you'll find our chemical cleaning product guidelines there. I'd also like to recommend the DAN operational guidelines, cleaning guidelines as well, which we had an opportunity to review and provide some inputs into as well. Fourth element are also providing a cleaning product that has been tested and shown to be effective at killing or removing COVID, but it's completely environmentally friendly and it can be disposed straight into the ocean. So please have a look at their website. At the moment, unless they've made any changes, it's only available in Europe, but I know that they were looking at trying to make that more widely available as well. So there's some tips there for you.
Great.
So
Peisee, if you like, please do go ahead and tell us a bit more about your efforts, if you can hear us.
Okay, yeah, I can hear you now.
Please go ahead.
I think for years is we have a nightly talk to all our guests who checked in the day before, or the same day. We have an on-site conservation project, so we will tell them what we are doing and what to do if there's turtle landing and the hatch flick. During the talk, we also will tell them our conservation effort, because our environmental effort, because that way we can spread the awareness directly to them, because not everybody goes through our homepage to get the information, and they don't like to read a lot of wordy stuff. So we make videos and stuff like that. So during the talk, we also tell them about the no sunscreen, the effort of no straw. We were the first resort that goes no straw totally on Perhentian Island, and we actually went and talked to the other operators, and Perhentian now is one of the greenest island in the whole Malaysia. Yeah, we do not provide any drinking bottles. I still sell them because some guests really demand for plastic bottles. They feel safer that way. But I price them at a higher price, and if they ask me, I say I simply discourage that. And we have a free refill of water, and we have free drinking bottle for them to bring in and out when they go on the snorkel or diving tour. So that was what we do at our resort and dive center.
Great, thanks so much for sharing that, Peisee. And I think that's really something that all of us need to learn to balance this in COVID times, sort of hygiene and safety, but at the same time making environmental choices. And one of the things that also Adam and Rachel before said was that it's so important to really experience conservation and feel like you are part of the impact to really get people on board. So it sounds like that's something that you're doing in your dive center as well. Can you tell us just very quickly about how can people get involved with conservation there?
Well, for coming to us, we always like to share what is the right way of doing. Our dive instructors all practice teaching their students to be the greenest possible, or the less damage to the environment as they can. All the the cleaning products we use are environmental friendly. We make our own cleaning products if we can. We even make our own sunscreen with just shea butter and coconut oil. So those are all okay to use, and it's not really toxic to the environment. And then we will also share that we have our recipe and everything shared at the dive center, so that people can bring home what they learned from us. And we believe that conservation or environmental minded is through spreading the awareness we should share with everybody. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Peisee. And please do continue your efforts. You're really sort of trailblazing ahead for all of us. And I think this is time to wrap up. We've heard some really amazing stuff. Basically, what we've learned is all of us have a role to play. All of us can take responsibility, whether it's just, divers and their families, or snorkelers, dive centers, equipment makers. So there's something that all of us can do, and do make that really visible and transparent, because there is demand out there, and we can catalyze more demand for sustainable diving. And share your experiences, share where to get cleaner products as well. Peisee, share as well the great stuff that you're doing, because that will really inspire change. And I think that's something, a really important takeaway message for all of us. This is an opportunity to change the way that we're doing things, and to experience that change, and to share it with others as well. Thanks so much for this opportunity. Chloe, I'll hand over to you if there's any sort of last words you want to say. Thank you so much from my side.
Just simply to say a huge thank you to all of our partners, PADI, Paralens, Scuba.Digital, of course, for hosting the event and for joining us as well. Explorer Ventures, ZuBlu and Bubbles Dive Centre Resorts. And of course, our lead partner, the UN Environment Programme, who's been supporting Greenfin since its inception in 2004. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without you. So thank you, everyone. And looking forward to seeing you at the next dive show, maybe in person, you never know.
And also check out Greenfin's website as well. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.